Hi, this is me, Terry. I'll try to give you a little dose of looking at me real quick. I don't know how well that took. I'm not good at selfies because my object is not FaceTime. Right now, I'm standing in my backyard giving you a little bit of a look at some of the neighbors' Christmas lights across the street from us. Uh, See, they decorate pretty decent. Some of our neighbors do. We're not big on decorating, but some of our neighbors are. Now, basically, this is another one of those videos where you probably just as well just listen to it. This is more, the point here is more what I've got to say, speaking from the heart tonight, this being New Year's Eve. And you get a look at some of my backyard. The grass that's going brown because, again, it is December 31st. We are fast running out of time in 2016. There's a little, if I can get him in the shot here, there's a picture of my dog Hunter. Okay. Well, basically, what I want to do, again, this is not one where I've got a text or anything like that, or I haven't printed out some scripture to use like I do sometimes. I'm just talking from the heart here because this is, let's see, I believe 10, 20, 30, about 35 years ago today, I almost lost mom and dad prematurely. I mean, they died soon enough as it was, old age and stuff. But I was still in high school there in 1981 as we closed out 1981 and beginning to bring in 1982, which was my graduation year. That afternoon, December 31st, mom and dad had gone out. Dad took mom to the hairdresser. She had an afternoon appointment in Danville. Oh, I don't know, someplace on East Main or Oregon Street or someplace like that was where her hairdresser was, and she was getting her hair done. You know, Mom didn't drive. She never did learn. Dad picked her up. And they were taking Main Street, and then they cut over to Bowman Avenue. And they were going to proceed to Fairchild Street to Kingdom Avenue, where we lived. For some of you, if you want a kind of an idea, if you know Danville at all, or if you want to look it up on a map, it's not that important, really. But Kingdom Avenue is the brick street off of Fairchild, very close to Danville High School. Matter of fact, when I was in high school there, I used to walk it. Unless the weather was too bad, ridiculous storm or something going on when I had to go to school. But anyway, it was Christmas break. I was going to go to church that night and take the car, and it was Dad's car, but he bought it basically for me to drive. He normally just drove his pickup truck. But the car was a 68 Galaxie 500 Ford with I believe it was like a 390 motor, something like that. It was a huge motor, big 8-cylinder thing. And Dad liked that little touch, years before that, he had a Pontiac GTO that had another unfortunate ending. But I'm going to tell you about the one that happened in 1981, New Year's Eve afternoon. Some idiot had already started celebrating, before the evening even got started. I mean, it was like 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I think, when this happened. I got back from wherever I was at or whatever. Anyway, I was home, and Mom and Dad came in. They didn't have the car. Well, as they were proceeding north on Bowman Avenue, heading toward Fairchild Street to go through the subway and make their way to Kingdom Avenue to come home, this idiot, all sauced up and everything, again, way, way, way too early, even if there ever was a good time for it, that sure wasn't it. He took out about 6 cars and a runaround bus. A runaround bus was the predecessor of today's DMT, or Danville Mass Transit bus system. Okay. Now, I came so close to losing Mom and Dad that night. And when I later got a chance to look at the car where it was impounded, the junkyard or wherever it was they had it, I assume, after it was released to do so, they were just going to scrap it. Back into that car was scrunched up like an accordion. And of course, that's where the gas tank was. If there had been a spark, man, I would have lost Mom and Dad that night. It's just the grace of God that Mom and Dad were with us for a few years longer. Way too few years anyway, with their health and their age. But I just want to tell you, it's not worth it to get out on the road after you get sauced up. I mean, if you're going to drink, which to me, I've always said the first drop is too much. I personally, here's another story, I was cured of ever wanting to drink when I was a toddler. I was at my sister's house. Yeah, I had a grown married sister who had children of her own who were older than me. So I've got nieces and nephews older than me, okay? No, I was the last. I'm the baby of Mom's family, okay? So I guess maybe it is appropriate that it falls to me to make this as it is. But, I mean, if you're going to get sauced up, if you're going to get wasted, whatever you want to call it, throw your keys somewhere. I mean, throw them in the middle of the laundry room or whatever, and don't even take your car. Get a ride. Get somebody that's not going to get stupid to give you a ride home later. Or get you a hotel room and stay the night till you're awake enough. But don't even take your car if you're going to go get lit. It's not worth it. I'm a compassionate person, okay? And I've learned to be more compassionate over the years. But from that time I was a little boy, we had a first family car wreck in 1969, and then this other one that happened in 1981. I'm not very sympathetic to people with DUIs. Oh, well, you can't drive no more. Well, really, you shouldn't. You're not responsible enough. And if that means bothering your friends and family and for rides and taking the bus or a cab when you have to, tough crap. I have no sympathy for you other than just as a human being. I feel bad that you're so messed up. But if you can't leave the alcohol alone, or nowadays if you can't leave the drugs alone, legal or not, you don't need to be on the road. If you cause someone to go to an early grave, maybe even yourself, you have no sympathy on me. Your victims have plenty of sympathy from me, but you don't. And that's why this is just me talking, and you're getting a nice look at the brown grass in my backyard. Basically, we've been doing a little end-of-year house cleaning, and it's not really fit to act like a video making studio. So I prefer to go out and give you almost nothing to look at rather than looking at a, messed up house, right? But anyway, since that's still a work in progress, you get to see this. Hunter's out there running around somewhere. Yeah, there he is. I got him in the spotlight, but you know how that can be. I just want to say, tonight, of all nights, I mean, any night, but tonight especially, when people are more vulnerable to overdoing and stuff, hey, no, let's not do it. Let's just leave the keys. I mean, hide them in the laundry room. Throw them into that pile of unwashed laundry if you have to. Whatever you got to do, leave the car alone tonight, please. Yeah, I was cured when I was a toddler of it at my sister's house. I didn't finish this story. I'm going to finish it before I sign off here. Again, it was my sister's house. Mom and Dad wouldn't have had this in their house, especially not after this happened. There was an empty beer can on the arm of a chair in their front room. It was a wooden chair arm, so the beer can, balanced perfectly, just sat there. I, as a little squirt, barely knowing how to walk, and you know how little kids are. They'll put anything in their mouth, anything they can. I picked up this can. I'd probably seen somebody drinking from a beer can once, so, and there was a drop left in it. I got that drop, and that taste on my tongue as a little baby boy, ruined my desire for alcohol ever. Okay, it's just, don't need it, don't want it. And as far as drugs go, why would you want to take anything that would impair your judgment? Uh, I don't know about you, but I need all the wisdom and smarts I can muster in this life. It's just too hard to walk around and you're not working on all four cylinders or all eight cylinders. Uh, Again, a little bit further story. I'm going to tell you this. Um, my mom and dad, we used to live out in the country before we moved into town. We lived about a mile north of the Vermilion County Airport on a gravel road that had no name. Maybe it has a name now, I don't know. It might have a road number, a county road number for all I know, but back then it didn't. It had no intersection sign, nothing. Okay, to get to our road in our house, you had to make a left-hand turn. If you were coming from Danville, you had to head north on that two-lane highway, and that's where we were vulnerable. Uh, uh, Spiffy, again, probably the best car Dad ever owned. Pontiac GTO out of, I don't know, probably the mid-60s. Four on the floor, yellow, monster motor. I mean, thing would move. I mean, he could go from practically standing still in that little stretch of flat road in front of the airport. He could hit 100, 110 easily in that old GTO. And back in the day when seatbelts weren't legally required, they were actually, I think, if I understand it right, a fairly new item as a safety item in vehicles. And airbags had not even been dreamt up yet. Back in that day, of course, people drove in a car, and if they got in a wreck, they got hurt generally. Well, I sat in between those bucket seats in behind the four on the floor. I was a little squirt. I was about not even 6 years old yet. And I sat there because I liked those dashboard lights. I was fascinated by that and the blinkers for the turn signals and everything, So I liked to watch them. Everything like that. So that's why I was sitting there. Well, when that drunk came over the hill, come from behind us, rear-ended our car, we were at that point where we were about to turn onto our gravel road. Well, instead of going onto the gravel road, getting rear-ended, our car wound up in the ditch next to the gravel road. And it was a very horrifying situation. I don't completely remember it because I was just too young. But I know my dad was upset, kind of freaking out, trying to get help. Oh my God, all my family's hurt, Again, I was in between the bucket seats. Again, Mom didn't have a seatbelt on. She would have still did this if she could, but she threw herself on that gear shift to save me. When the moment she knew there was an impact and everything, she wound up with 5 broken ribs and a punctured lung and spent, I think, at least 2 weeks in the hospital. So congratulations, Mr. Drunk Driver. I know what your name was, and you're probably long since dead now, but there's no sense upsetting your relatives, If they knew you, if they knew your true character, they wouldn't be surprised. But anyway, our nice, spiffy Pontiac GTO, yellow with nice black interior, it was sharp. It was in the ditch. Mom had the broken ribs and punctured lungs, although I'm sure at that point they didn't know how bad she was hurt. I think that time she probably came very near to dying. My next older brother, Gary, he was like 5 years older than me. He was taking a nap in the back seat. It had that long bench back seat. And he wound up with a broken collarbone. I think my dad, he probably had a face full of steering wheel. I think he lost the rest of whatever teeth he had left, because all I can remember of him for years after that is he had his false teeth, his dentures. So all that resulted because some idiot had to have that drink, and then he had to get in his truck, and I don't know if he was going home or going to find another bar that night. And that wasn't on New Year's Eve. That was, I think, one evening in September. I say our family had been coming home from visiting family in town and whatnot, and this happened. So yeah, Mr. Drunk Driver, I have little to no sympathy for you. I can only pray that you will repent and get forgiveness and not lay your soul down for eternity in hell. Jesus will forgive you. He will save you. The people you hurt, well, they may have a little harder time with it, but Jesus will forgive you. Remember that. And God bless. And I do hope that, since I'm a little later than I wanted to publishing this, I do hope that you've managed to survive. This is Terry signing off.